Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, September 30th. It is the end of the third quarter of 2019 already. So, as we're all getting ready for the fourth quarter, we are here for this edition of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia, where we discuss different topics related to the 501c community. We are supported by Rogue Tulips LLC. We provide 501c consulting services and association management services. We are also at Rogue Tulips a proud supporter of the 501c League, which is a virtual membership organization. You can check out Rogue Tulips at roguetulips.com, and you can check out the league at the 501cleague.net. So today's topic is consultants are not used car salesmen. And it is a continuation of our previous episode discussion about the RFP process and some things we think could be improved. I am Cecilia Sepp, the founder and principal of Rogue Tulips, and I am here with my co-host, friend, and colleague, Agnes. Agnes, would you like to say hello?
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global audience. I'm not sure what part of the world you're operating in, but hello there. My name is Agnes Amos Coleman. I'm an author and a consultant with Rogue Tulip. Over to you, Cecilia.
Great, thank you, Agnes. And so we are here today to discuss working with consultants because we feel this is a conversation that has many levels. And so we wanted to focus on a couple other things today. So first of all, we're going to bring it back to us as much as we love using Adobe stock. And that was an excellent photo about used car salesmen. So also reminded Agnes of a truck she knows and loves back home. So today what we want to talk about is again, we want to continue the conversation about working with consultants. One reason is we have been, and especially myself, as the lead on writing proposals lately, we've been writing a lot of proposals the last few months. And so we've seen, basically, as Sergio Leone might say, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the RFP process. So we don't think it needs to be ugly or bad. We think the whole process can be good for everyone. So we thought, hey, let's talk about it some more. I'm also, as a member of ASAE and a consultant member, on the consultant task force, and we have just recently finished up our work for that group to make some recommendations to ASAE about consultant membership category and how people could learn more about us and work better with us. And so it's on my mind a lot lately for that reason as well. So one of the first things we wanted to talk about is the alternative to the request for a proposal process that was developed several years ago, and I will ask Agnes to chime in on this. There's something that another task force got together 4 or 5 years ago at ASAE and created the request for qualifications process, which we call the RFQ process. And it seems like people have forgotten about it, or maybe they're just not aware of it. And so the RFQ process is a process where you create a questionnaire and you send that questionnaire out to a group of consultants you might want to work with. And so I'm going to throw it over to Agnes at this point and get Agnes's input on her view of the RFQ process.
Thanks, Cecilia. I think the RFQ process is definitely a better alternative because if you recall when we last did the segment or recorded the segment, one of the things that we talked about is that we mustn't lose sight of the reason for RFP in the first place, which is really to achieve the desired outcome for an organization or 501c who is really, presenting this RFP. So the RFQ becomes a very viable process because a viable alternative, because what it does is that it provides the opportunity to have quality performance and results. It really does help set that tone by having that RFQ. And I really believe, and I totally agree with you, that there is an opportunity for us here as 501c community to begin to learn more about the RFQ, even if it means having some kind of a training, a session on it in our various industries, Cecilia.
Yeah, and I think, and that's really great segue into where proposals come into play, I think. So it doesn't mean you wouldn't get a proposal anymore. All it means is that you would use this questionnaire, the RFQ, to narrow down who you would like to have another conversation with and then ask for a proposal instead of putting together a long and complex or complicated, depending on what you're looking for, RFP that may not actually suit your purposes. Because one of the other things about doing an RFP is it may turn out after you talk to somebody that your needs become more refined or defined. And having these conversations helps you think a little bit differently about what it is you're trying to accomplish. So by not restricting yourself with a step response request for an RFP, by just asking a series of questions that can open up a conversation. So I don't know, what do you think about that, Agnes? I think that that's a great thing, is because people can actually maybe expand their project or define it better.
Exactly. And you know, as consultants, when we work with our clients, the areas that we focus in, how do we help our clients streamline their business? And the RFQ process is actually an excellent way for 501c community, because it allows you to help you streamline the process of not only writing your RFP, but also looking at how you hire consultants to work for you. And time is money. Particularly for us or smaller associations, you really want to look at this process very carefully. And anything that you can do, if the RFQ is a way of streamlining the process, we definitely recommend it, because it's a way of, there's that, it's not a cliche, but there's that, work smart, not work hard.
Right. Yes, exactly. Work smarter. Yes, not harder. Yes, I think we can all get behind that. I actually was trying to get a bid to remove a tree recently, and one of the guys that gave me a bid, I said, well, he just seems to see problems, not solutions. And the guy that owned the company wrote back and said, well, of course, we just are looking for the easy job and the easy way to do it. So yeah, I was like, okay, at least he's honest. I love that. But and then this kind of brings us back, though, like we're trying to use some humor for this topic, which is why we called it Consultants Are Not Used Car Salesmen. But we also just want to address the fact that consultants are trustworthy professionals, and especially if they are a serious consultant who's committed to doing it as their career choice. And that means that's a person who's building a company, they're building a consultancy, they're building a client base, and they are serious about helping people find answers to questions or solve problems. And that means we can come in, we're objective, we have a different viewpoint, we have experience from working with a lot of different associations. And so we can say, well, we've seen a similar thing, and here's maybe a suggestion we've seen another group do that you might not be aware of. And so that's really why you need to have a conversation with consultants before you pick one, and before you make people spend a lot of time writing you a proposal that may not be on point. And so that's another reason I'm a huge fan of the RFQ process. I actually got to participate in one in 2018, and it was just like so much easier for everybody, because we answered the questions. They just had to read 10 questions. They didn't have to go through many, many proposals. They could be anywhere from 10 to 30 pages long on average. So it really is, as Agnes said, and I think it's a good point, Agnes, it saves the association staff a lot of time too, because you're able to review more quickly who you might want to have another conversation with. We also want to bring up the issue of confidentiality, because we've seen a new trend of people requesting confidentiality agreements in the proposal process, and that's okay. But why are you asking for a confidentiality agreement in the proposal process? You need to take a step back and say to yourself, are we actually sharing confidential information? Or are we asking people to sign a confidentiality agreement because it's on the advice of our lawyers who are trying to protect us? And this is nothing against lawyers, but let's keep in mind, anytime you ask somebody to sign an agreement, they are bound by that agreement. And I want to let that sink in for a second. It's okay to ask, but you're asking people to make a commitment. It's a legal binding agreement. So if you're doing it, make sure it's appropriate in scope and appropriate to what the information is you're sharing. And I say this simply because legal things are legal things, and people tend to go, ooh, it's a legal thing. And it
Mhm.
kind of puts people off a little bit. And you don't want to put people off. Nobody wants to put people off, especially when you're negotiating. So keep that in mind. Anytime it's a legal agreement, you want to make sure it's appropriate to what you're doing. We have no problem here at Rogue Tulip signing confidentiality agreements at all, as long as they are appropriate to the scope of the proposal process. We are happy to do that. You want to know why we're happy to sign it? Because as professional consultants, we keep that confidential anyway. So, we're happy to do that. But that's the difference of working with a professional consultant versus somebody who is maybe freelancing in between jobs or picking up projects while they decide what's next. There's nothing wrong with freelancing or picking up projects in between jobs, but people who are committed professionals are people who are going to follow that kind of professional behavior, very similar to the ASAE Code of Ethics that we all follow as members.
Mhm.
So Agnes, what other thoughts do you have on, I hit a lot of topics, I think, right there.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much summed it up nicely, Cecilia, and thank you for that overview. I think the key here for us to remember is collaboration. Um, with the RFQ process and the non-disclosure agreement, confidentiality agreement, putting all this together boils down to the willingness of the 501c community to collaborate with consultants that they work with. There was something that you mentioned earlier on that kind of piqued my interest. So it's not just piqued my interest, but that resonated with me is trust.
Mm-hmm.
Collaboration breeds trust, and trust breeds collaboration. Because when you trust your partner, you know that you feel good about the working relationship. You know that they will do good by you, and you will do good by them. And that's the foundation. If we can do that as 501c community when hiring our consultants, it would go a long way in helping us to identify and to streamline how we do our RFQ, and to look at how we can move forward with this non-disclosure agreement and confidentiality agreement process.
Yeah, great point about trust, because that I have learned from my personal experience that just because somebody signs an agreement doesn't mean they're necessarily going to keep it. So the quality of the agreement is the quality of the individual signing it and their intention to keep their word. And that's where trust comes in. And perhaps another title for this episode, following up on the RFP process, could be Consultants Can Be Trusted. We can be trusted because we're professionals. And as professionals, we have a code of ethics that we follow. It's something, I don't know, Agnes, just in our last minute or so, what are your thoughts about perhaps creating a consultant code of ethics for 501c consultants?
I think it's an excellent idea because it provides an opportunity for education in our community of consultants. And not only that, it also provides an opportunity for our 501c communities who hire us to learn about what we're doing, what we're trying to do to help the industry get better and to support the works of the association. Because, as you know, again, it's about collaboration. We're here to make each other's job look good. We want to support our 501c community. We don't want them to work hard. We want them to work smart. That's our job, and everybody wins. Everybody wins, Cecilia.
Agnes, I love that. And I think that's a great way to close today's follow-up discussion on RFP. So thank you for that. That's great. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this week's episode of Agnes and Cecilia. Share your comments with us. We post these on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. So, give it a try and let us know what you think. You can subscribe to our postings at youtube.com. And we have our playlist set up if you want to look at some of our back episodes. So as we always say every week, take 15 minutes and talk to somebody because you might learn something. So thanks again, and we will be back next week with another episode. Bye, Agnes. Thanks.
Bye, Cecilia. Thank you.